Welcome to Keepinitcomic. I'm GoofyRhexxi. So why does Deadpool use katanas? One of the things that stands out the most about Deadpool, other than his mouth, his guns, his fourth wall breaking, and his tenacious need to slap Wolverine, are his swords. So why exactly does this merc with a mouth use katanas? Now, for the most part here, through all the comics and the movies, Deadpool uses two katanas, and he loves them so much that he names them Bea and Arthur, respectfully after the famous Golden Girls actress. The material used in making Deadpool swords differs depending on what comic book you're reading, but for the most part, Deadpool swords are said to be made out of the incredibly durable metal known as carbonadium. Though not as strong as the more prominent metals of the Marvel, such as adamantium and vibranium, carbonadium is said to be nearly indestructible, highly radioactive, and objects that are composed of it can stop mutants with incredible healing factors. Now, Deadpool once uses carbonadium katanas to unalive Wolverine in the Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe comics. But if there's something that the movies and the comics don't really explore, it's the fact that we don't know how Deadpool learned to use his swords in the first place. I mean, I must have seen Deadpool 1 like 100 times by now, and at no point did I see a training montage where Deadpool went to China to learn how to wield a katana. And I'm sure you already know this. A katana is a Japanese-made weapon that dates back to the Shogun age of Japan, and it was the official weapon of the samurai. So Deadpool using katanas to the level of proficiency that we see in the movies must mean that he had to have some sort of training, right? Preferably by samurais or by ninjas. Yet in the comics, we don't have an explanation as to where or when he learned how to use these swords, although in the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, Deadpool tells Spider-Man that he learned how to fight from Nick Fury. Now, from the comics, we all know that Deadpool is a master of Kenjutsu, a Japanese way of the sword. Deadpool's proficiency level is in using dual katanas, which is somewhat impractical and extremely difficult, so it's crazy how he is that good at using them. Other than Deadpool, there are a few prominent characters in fiction that use twin katanas. One of them is Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and from our One Piece fans, we have Roronoa Zoro, who uses not just two, but three swords to fight. Now, I really had to study Kenjutsu to know if there's any sword fighting style that allows a user to wield two katanas at the same time. And the truth is, there really isn't. At least not for katanas of the same size, meaning using two katanas of equal length isn't really a thing. A samurai in the 1500s invented a dual wielding style called the Niten Hichiru, which is a fighting style that allows a fighter to use a long sword katana and a short sword katana called a wakizashi. The average katana length is about 60 to about 80 centimeters long, while the average wakizashi, or the small katana, is somewhere between about 30 to 60 centimeters long. Now, Deadpool, on the other hand, uses katanas with an average length of 65 centimeters long, and that's not allowed in Kenjutsu for several different reasons. Now, the truth is, using two katanas of equal length increases the chances of injuring yourself, mainly because a katana is a two-handed weapon and not a one-handed one. You see how long the handle is? That means you can handle the sword with both hands, as opposed to, let's say, a rapier, which is a one-handed sword. Now, the reason using two katanas isn't practical in real life is because the length of the katana and its handle makes it hard to hold with one hand and limits fluid movement. So there's a tendency that while using both swords, the lengthy sides could get caught up in something like your face when you're fighting. So when using a smaller blade, it reduces the risk, hence the need for the smaller katana. The other reason why it's not advisable to use two katanas to fight is that there's nothing underneath, like those huge stumps at the bottom called a hummel, which you see in most two-handed swords, which prevents a hand from sliding down and out of the sword. That is why famous two-handed swords like the Excalibur have those prominent hummels at the bottom to reduce the chances of your sword from flying off during a fight. But as you can see, the katana doesn't have those features, which makes wielding two of them somewhat impractical in a real fight. But way because of his mutant powers and healing factor, he has a superhuman grasp of using both swords, and I don't think I've ever seen the swords fall out of his hands unless he throws them on purpose. So even though it's somewhat impractical to use these weapons in that format, Deadpool uses it effortlessly. Now, we don't know how much he does it or where he learned to use them, but I definitely know why he uses both swords, and there are a few reasons. I think on paper, the reason why Deadpool can use 2 katanas is basically because of his healing factor. So if he injures himself, eventually he can just heal. And if he loses the swords, well, it's no biggie. He'll just take his gun and fire off. I think that negates the fear of using 2 katanas, but for the most part, I realize that Wade doesn't really need the katanas because it's a melee weapon used for unaliving people, but that can easily be achieved with a firearm. We also know that Wade is even more proficient when it comes to using guns. Dude used 12 bullets to take out multiple enemies in Deadpool 1, and you can see where we talk about that in our previous videos where we counted the number of guys that Deadpool has taken out in both movies. Now, we always have crazy videos such as theories, comic book recaps, movie breakdowns, and so much more on this channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so as of yet, so you can always stay aware of when we put out a new video. Now, you can say that the utility of the sword is when he fights individuals with accelerating healing, like we said in the comics. Wade uses the Carminatum Katana to take out Wolverine, so maybe that's where the strengths lie, but the same results can be easily achieved with a bullet. The reason why Wade uses swords in the comics is the same reason he uses them in the movies. After all, the movies mainly adapted his looks because that is how he looked in the comics. So why does Wade use swords even though he doesn't really need them? Well, it is for no other reason than the fact that the swords, or using the swords, looks cool as hell. No, seriously, that's the base of it, but there's some science to it as well, along with the fact that there is something that Rob Liefeld, the creator of Deadpool, needed to do with the character to stand out, which we're going to talk about right now. So the growing consensus here is that everyone seems to agree on this, is that the fact that Deadpool probably thought using 2 swords made him look cool, made him look like a ninja so that he could start using 2 swords, even though they're the wrong type of dual swords to use in a fight. Now, this is no secret, but characters such as Deadpool and basically every single character in Marvel must look really cool. I'm not even kidding. You've probably wondered why Marvel characters are drawn this day in a certain way, with heavy muscular features, as well as using objects like guns, web shooters, and in Deadpool's case, twin katanas. It's because it looks cool on paper. It's because most of the demographic that this content is geared towards are predominantly male, who find these kinds of things fascinating. Now, I'm not saying women or little girls don't read comics or enjoy comic book movies, but for the most part, males make up the audience for this media, especially for characters like Deadpool. So when Rob Liefeld, the creator of Deadpool, was designing the character, he needed to make sure that he looked cool to him and his audience. Boys think ninjas are cool, so we make him look like a ninja. Boys think swords are cool, especially katanas, so we give him 2 katanas, forgetting about the fact that it's impractical to use both of them. That way, Deadpool is perceived as looking awesome, and we can sell more comics, and when it is time for the character to go into the movies, we'll adopt the same looks so that the appearance will continue to fascinate and entice its audience. But we're going to take it a step further, because Deadpool's coolness isn't just for comic book pages or movie screens. In truth, one of the major reasons why Deadpool and a lot of superhero characters are designed the way that they are is because of the toyetic media. Yes, that's right, toyetic media. They need to make sure that Deadpool looks cool as merchandise so that they can sell more toys. If you think the movie or the comic book industry makes a lot of money, wait till you see just how much these companies make from the merchandising and toys of trusted IP. As of 2020, Disney earned a whopping $41 billion from MCU merchandise alone. Let's not even talk about the amount that has been made from brands like Star Wars, which is another juggernaut of toyetic media. Even Rob Liefeld actually stated that his biggest inspiration for creating Deadpool, other than Slade Wilson or Deathstroke from the DC universe, was Wolverine and Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. And here's the funny part. It wasn't the G.I. Joe TV shows or the G.I. Joe comics, but the G.I. Joe figurines. So don't think that your average comic book character is designed that way just for comics and movies. They need to also be toyetic. A study carried out by Lego on the way boys and girls interacted with their toys showed that girls tended to insert themselves with toys that they play with. The girls took on an acting role when interacting with their toys, but the boys usually play with their toys as more of a director. They told the toys what to do and sort of made the toys do things while viewing from an outside perspective. The boys loved to create action sequences and make the characters fight and bash heads. Hence why the toys that are geared towards boys have to be big and flashy looking. Toys with guns, and of course, swords. This is something that these media heads have understood. So when creating a comic book character, it has to be toyetic. something that will look cool as a toy for the boys to buy. This logic also translates to video games as well. Depending on a gamer's experience, most gamers will love to use both guns and swords while playing, which means we can carry out a diversity of actions, which makes the fun even more real. Deadpool as a video game character will be a little less exciting if you just use guns, but if you had swords to the mix, well, gamers would want to play it a little bit more. It's funny when you think about it, but in a lot of ways, the movies and the comics really just serve as ads for us nerds to buy their toys and to play their games. I'm honestly not mad as long as I do get to have fun, to be fair. And I think that's the point of Deadpool as a character. Call him a psychopath or, a murderer, which is technically true, but he is someone who has fun when he does what he does. So even though he might not need to use swords, he uses them because they're fun for him. He enjoys fighting with the sword because these are his preferred weapons and it's fun for him. Which also leads into my last point here, which is that since Deadpool is supposed to be a cool character, he's cool because he runs off at the mouth, he has no inner monologue, he does some of the most ridiculous things. The character is flashy, some would even say a show-off. The katanas are just a symbol of that personality and it represents that very well. It also is a differentiator from other heroes and villains, which allows him to stand out amongst the crowd. Wolverine already had claws, other heroes have guns, some shoot blasts with their hands, etc. But who fights with katanas, has the face of an avocado, and can't shut his mouth? That is Deadpool. Captain Deadpool. No, just Deadpool. The swords add to what makes Deadpool a fun character to see, to play with as a toy and as an avatar in a video game. They're a part of Deadpool's signature, his brand, and what he stands for. So we may not know where he learned how to use these damn swords, but I'm glad that he does because those swords are what makes Deadpool Deadpool. So let me know what you think about Deadpool and his sword use in the comments below. We've been talking about Deadpool a lot on the channel lately, doing a complete breakdown of both Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 movies, as well as a time where we counted the number of people Deadpool has murked. So go check those videos out here on this channel. Glad that you stayed towards the very end. And as always, thanks so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.